Hello, and welcome to another edition of No Lights Paranormal, where three nerdy paranormal investigators sit down and discuss spooky stories from the web. My name is Joe, the lead investigator.
My name is Teresa, and I am your researcher.
And Alex, the Baba Yaga enthusiast and equipment setter-upper.
Yeah.
I love it. Mm-hmm.
Always the equipment setter-upper, but never understand how the equipment works.
Sometimes.
That's our lot in life.
Sometimes.
That's my thing. That's my thing.
Brawn out the brains.
Plugged it in.
I was plug and play. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and just jump right on into the paranormal news, ghosty news. What do you call it? Spooky news. Okay, cool. So I don't have a whole lot of spooky news for you today because I already read a whole bunch of stuff that's going on in the U.S., at least, in the month of February in the last couple of episodes. So go ahead and go back to the beginning of those ones so you can see all the things that are happening. Today, I'm actually going to tell you about a bit of a hot button issue. This one has been in the news for a while, apparently. Some of it I knew about, some of it I didn't. But today I read that Burrillville police actually paid a visit to the Conjuring house. And it looks like the house is officially out of business, closed to the public after this police investigation. So apparently, the police went to the Round Top house after a Maryland couple flagged down an officer asking for directions to the house, which had been offering overnight tours, investigations, and other experiences before its business license had expired. And so, upon knocking on the door, police were met by the manager of the house, and unfortunately, Miss Nunez, the actual owner, was not there, so this poor girl ended up taking violations and has a date in municipal court where she will be fined $500 every single day for operating this business without a license.
That's insane.
So, again, Miss Nunez has fucked over the paranormal world.
Does she normally do that? I don't know much about the...
This woman seems to be batshit crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, so, even, the dude from Ghost Hunters.
Yeah.
Tried to have him arrested. Weird shit.
And the bald-headed guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jason.
Yeah, Jason.
There's plenty of YouTube stuff out there for you guys to go look up if you're curious about the story. But yeah, thought he was trying to break into I don't know if there's drugs involved. It feels like there is.
Ousted and fired a guy who had been basically the manager of the house for her for many, many, many years because she said the spirits told her that he was stealing from her. The entire house has cameras all over it. If he was stealing, she would have seen it.
Right.
She's batshit crazy, and she's ruining lives trying to make a buck off of something that she shouldn't be making a buck off of.
Yeah, honestly, batshit crazy.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, which leads me into the idea that to any of our listeners that actually pay attention to us, even when it comes to pay-to-play stuff, do your research, do a quick Google search, make sure there's good reviews, things like that. And, I guess in some cases like this, even check YouTube shit because this has been ongoing and it's not really a secret how she's been. If you kind of pay attention and, us constantly looking up stories and things like that, paranormal YouTube is on our radar.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've been aware of the story and it just went from weird to weirder. And this is the first I'm hearing about the 25-year-old girl part. Don't get me wrong, but that's absolute bullshit. She has nothing to do with the fact of anything other than
the business license is not even her responsibility. That is the responsibility of the owner.
That'd be a homeowner.
Unfortunately, the owner wasn't there, so the girl was technically on duty operating the business at that time.
And had no idea. Okay.
And she may or may not have even known that the business license had expired.
Yeah.
I mean, at 25 years old, you're just fucking excited to be hanging out in the Conjuring house.
Right.
Yeah, excited about the paranormal. Hey, man, I get to work at a place that is famous in
right?
history.
I'm getting paid for this cool ass shit.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's
paying for this cool ass shit.
Bunch of bullshit. I'm irritated about it. I don't agree with it. I think
agree.
it's
I agree with you.
Yeah.
The whole thing pisses me off, and I just there is nothing wrong with pay to play. Nothing. And the vast majority of these places are very credible. They're using this money to restore these pieces of history and keep them operational and keep them standing for generations and generations to be able to love the history and also enjoy the paranormal, because the paranormal is our history. Those people who are ghosts are our history.
And honestly, to go over it for a split second, like to make the jump from going to public outdoor places, cemeteries that you probably shouldn't be at, parks that you probably shouldn't be at after dark because technically you're probably not supposed to be there.
They technically close at
to
dusk, yeah.
actually being able to be invited to places and private residences and other like small business places, like having pay-to-play places on your resume, it helps a lot.
Yeah, you get some experience out of it. Absolutely.
It's helped us.
Take it
for sure.
Take it from people that have been in the game for 20 years. Like, this is how it works. It's just a natural step in the process.
But, and when private homeowners or private business owners are aware that you've had this experience and you're not just like brand new, oh, I picked up a camera today and all of a sudden I'm a ghost hunter.
Pardon the expression, Joe blow off the street.
Exactly.
Right.
Then you've had these experiences. You've been around spirits. You've seen some shit.
I've been to Stratton's Allegheny. I'm not going to freak out when I see something happen.
A brick fly through the air?
Which happened to me. It was wondrous. Yeah, when shit goes awry, I still jump scared just like everybody else.
Oh yeah, of course, it's a natural reaction.
Right, but I'm not gonna panic and flip my shit.
Yeah, go to our Facebook. I think my live stream from Waverly is still up there, and it's kind of hilarious.
The funny part though was you were running from a bat, not a ghost.
To be fair, I also didn't run. I just kind of like dropped to the floor and dodged.
Went, oh shit! Stop, drop, and roll.
It wasn't that elegant.
No. I was like, what the fuck is that? And I literally dropped to the floor.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Dick.
Right.
Yeah, because that's all we heard is Matt's laugh after that.
Oh, it was funny though.
Yeah.
It was funny. That video is on YouTube, guys, if you want to see it.
It is.
Yeah, also just realize that when you go to outdoor places like this where all the windows aren't boarded up and shit can get in, like sometimes you're dodging bats.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Sometimes bats are scarier than ghosts.
It's so true.
Yeah, because they come out of nowhere and you don't see them until you're right in their face.
I'm even a bat lover. I love bats. I would put up bat boxes, the whole 9 yards. But yeah, you don't really want to share a hallway with them.
No, I do. I do love bats, and we actually did have bat boxes in Tennessee.
Yeah, lots of them. But yeah, it's a little creepy when it's nighttime. You can't see shit except for
it's
a bat
you in the face.
In your face.
Yeah. It's from nowhere, and it's perfectly dark to now you can see this thing that's
because it's smacking
3.5
you.
inches from your face.
It's smacking you in the retina. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it was almost borderline. He almost jumped into my arms. That's how close.
Well, sometimes you make me feel safe, Joe.
That's fine.
Oh.
Yes. I'm just big.
You know what? Let's get on to some stories.
I love it.
You know what? I'll start.
Okay.
Because why not? I think unwittingly, there's kind of a tone for this episode that Teresa was not privy to, but I think you were not, but ours kind of fall into a category because I did a forest.
Oh. I didn't do a forest.
No, you didn't, and that's fine. To be fair, we didn't really talk about it after the episode last week, so we kind of went into this one blindfolded again, and we're just like, pick something, it's fine. And so I went with Pocomoke State Forest, and if that doesn't sound immediately familiar, it's not a surprise, but when I start telling you the story of the forest, it will be a surprise.
Okay.
You'll be like, oh, that's what that place is called. Got it. So ghosts of locals from the Pocomoke State Forest, as well as mysterious balls of light and impossible dark legends. There are countless tales from this haunted forest in Maryland. Go ahead. Nice little tie-in to your Conjuring House thing there, right? Anyway, countless tales from this haunted forest in Maryland keep piling on. making this perhaps one of the most busy as well as haunted forests in America. Between Snow Hill and Pocomoke City in Maryland, the Pocomoke State Forest harbors more than just the natural beauty of the landscape in the eastern shore. It is over 18,000 acres of big forest. And actually, if you look at the forest, it's kind of interesting because a lot of the pictures that I found, it's one of those forests where, like, you go in there and the trees, it's not that they're super well spread out, but, like, it's one of those forests where the trees, the branches don't start till like 20, 30 feet in the air. So the trees themselves feel more spread out than they are, right? Either way, it has a reputation that the local often share in hushed whispers. The forest is deemed off limits after sundown, as tales of eerie encounters and ghostly apparitions weave through the trees. This forest is also often called, and this is where you'll be like, oh, that's where that was? Got it. The forest is also called the true Blair Witch Project forest, as perhaps it is the most well-known forest in Maryland where the iconic horror movie also took place. Pocomoke State Forest is shrouded in unsettling stories with reports of women's screams, infants' cries, all echoing through the night. Its reputation is further steeped in creepy urban legends, including accounts of mysterious fireballs illuminating the darkened woods. However, it's the tales of the ominous disappearances and untimely deaths that send shivers down the spines of those who dare to explore. So we will start with the drowned ghosts of the state forest. The very word, Pocomoke, comes from the Algonquin.
Algonquin.
No L. It's Algonquin.
Interesting. Never heard of it.
Language, and it means broken ground. Historically, it was thought to mean black water, and it is said the water is totally dark thanks to the light not passing through the bald cypress trees. However, come to find out, it actually means broken ground. Many tales of the ghosts haunting the forest are said to be the souls of those who have drowned in the river of the swampy waters, like is the case with Joby Emmons and his son, who were getting on their boat, but the son fell into the water and couldn't get out. The father jumped in after him to rescue him, but they both got trapped under the boat and drowned. People claim that they have seen the spirit of Joby Emmons and his son walking alongside the river of the state forest. Another group of people haunting the swamp area are the children between the slaves and the slave owners. There are countless stories where slave owners assaulted their slaves, and if there was a child born, they took the child out to the swampy forest and drowned them. Many hikers claim to have felt the touch of something small and seen small shadows gliding through the trees.
That's fucked up.
You literally will hear the screams of infants throughout the swamp and the trees. Crazy.
That's messed up.
There's another story. It is the sea captain and his family that haunt the forest. Many hikers and campers claim that they leave the state forest with mysterious handprints on their cars. What is strange about the handprints is they look like they have 6 fingers, something that a vicious sea captain who lived around these parts was said to have had. It is believed to be him haunting the forest after his death, and he murdered his family. The place of the haunting is said to be centered around a cellar house plantation that is still standing. It was built in, go figure, of all times, 1666.
Huh.
And was said to have been built by a French sea captain for his wife, or at least bride-to-be. He came back from the sea once, though, and found her pregnant, or having a child already, one that wasn't his. It was a local man from the city. He threw her out of the house and told her never to return. She did, though, and as she had no place to go, trying to beg him for forgiveness, she had her baby with her and came down on a raft in the water. It tipped close to the house, though, and the baby drowned. She managed to swim to the shore, though, but was not saved. In some versions of the story, the captain was even the one drowning the child by throwing the baby into the river. Her estranged husband dragged her to the bedroom where he stabbed her to death and fled the scene, never to return and be seen again. apologize for the dogs here. Anyway, I apologize for the dogs, but to carry on, there's also another legend. It is the legend of the heavy and cursed Bible.
Huh.
What?
Deep in the state forest, there was once an old church here called the Nazarene Church at the entrance of the Pusey Branch Nature Trail in the forest. It was a Methodist church at the end of the 19th century. Today, there is only an abandoned cemetery left, as the building of the church was moved to Furnacetown in 1980. According to the legends... Furnacetown.
Interesting.
According to the legends, there was perhaps a cursed Bible found inside the old church, or perhaps just a little bit haunted. Many people tried to steal this hidden Bible when they found it and ran through the forest with it, but they never got far. Apparently, the Bible got heavier and heavier with each step you took until you dropped it and it ended up where it originally was. Whether the Bible even existed is uncertain. However, it came with the building to Furnacetown and was left there. So apparently, if this church still stands in Furnacetown, I don't know.
Then
Again,
it should still be there.
then it was literally found there. That said, we'll follow that up with the story of the haunted Furnacetown. What really is Furnacetown? This part of the state forest has many legends of spirits lingering, where people came back with tales of seeing ghostly figures, hearing disembodied voices, and other paranormal things. The ghost town that is now turned into a museum was built around the Maryland Iron Companies. Interesting.
That is
Iron.
interesting. Iron, yeah, super.
Nasawango iron furnaces in 1832. At its height, Furnacetown used to employ hundreds of people. They also used slaves to do the hard labor, and most ghosts seen are said to be spirits of the slaves. The most known ghost said to haunt this place is the former slave Samson Hatt, or Samson Harmon. It is said that he was one of the slaves that worked in the mines and smelting ore in the big furnaces. By 1847, the furnaces closed down and the people started to move away, and the town became a ghost town. That said, afterwards, we've got another story. It is the Ball of Fire. Another strange thing reported in the state forest is the sighting of different elementals and no human spirits haunting the forest, taking different shapes and forms. One version told is said to be the haunting of a big fiery ball. The version talks about the priest Paul Walker. All right.
Okie dokie then.
Family.
Holding a revival in the forest around Pine Ridge in 1921. Some husbands were unhappy about their wives' conversion and gathered to get the priest. They went to the church to burn it down and beat up the priest, but when the leader of the group opened the door to the church, he stopped. A ball of fire came from the roof and split into two and went down each side of the church. This sight scared the men and they ran off. There's literally another story that talks about a goat man in the forest. There's a classic urban legend of a boyfriend's death. There's the hook man of the state forest. The bus driver. Another urban legend told is coming from the state forest is the haunted bus. A school bus was taking a shortcut through the forest once when they experienced engine troubles and the bus had to stop. The bus driver went outside and tried to fix it, but strange things started to happen to the bus. The sound of something walking on the roof of the bus started to scare the children, and they saw ghostly and monstrous faces in the windows. The teacher accompanying them told them all to close the windows and went to the front of the bus to find the bus driver and get them out of there. The only thing the teacher found was a skeleton by the front of the bus. The teacher slammed the door shut and got into the bus driver's seat and drove them all back to the school when the bus started working again. Again, weird shit here. So yeah, there's a lot of shit going on in the Blair Witch Project forest in Maryland.
That's crazy.
So the bus driver was just a thing of bones?
Apparently, by the time the teacher got back to the front of the bus with all this shit happening and the noises on the roof and yada, 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 the bus driver was just a pile of bones.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So yes, this forest is straight insanity.
Sounds like it.
That
Sounds like
said,
there's some shit going on in Maryland.
No doubt.
that said, what I will say is that if you're the age of our group, then for some of us, the Blair Witch Project may or may not have been pretty influential as far as movies go.
Mm.
I had weird shit happen to me in random woods, mainly the park that we go to all the time.
Yeah.
And it literally happened the same weekend that was opening weekend for the Blair Witch Project, and we went to see it. So, to an extent, I write it off with a grain of salt because, like, there may have been weird overflowing emotions, but also that doesn't really explain what I heard and saw. So,
Right.
That happens a lot in that forest.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's so
yeah.
true.
Joe knows the one we're talking about.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that forest is just a different animal altogether.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And the fun part about, I want to say the most fun part about like the outdoor places for me, especially like the forests and the woods, are that, sorry, Ollie really wants to say hello today. But yeah, the most fun part for the forests and the woods for me are the fact that a lot of times they do leave me with more questions than answers.
I'll agree
And that's
with
my
that.
biggest pet peeve.
Yeah.
It's a pet peeve, but it keeps me going back. So
Yeah, true, but it's irritating, mildly.
So anyway, that's my story. That's the actual forest in Maryland where the movie was filmed, and there's a lot of hauntings and legends around that forest. So if you're in the area and you're just getting your start up, I feel like we just talked about that. Like, go check it out.
Go.
No, the
hurt.
forest is always a good spot to start.
Be safe and don't be in the park after dark if there's a sign that says not to, okay?
And well, all right, I'm gonna say beyond that, just don't go by yourself.
Yeah.
Like, be safe more than anything.
Be smart.
Be safe, be
Mhm.
smart. Don't go by yourself ever. Nobody will believe you when you come back.
And, I mean,
And B, it's just not safe.
a clumsy asshole. I trip over shit, and if I break an ankle and can't get myself out of there, I want somebody to be there with me.
Yeah.
And realistically, there's not many people like me that are more comfortable in the woods than they are in an open field. So
Valid.
a lot of people will probably go into the woods by themselves and be like, this was a fucking bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I'm going to go next because I'm going to break up the two forest stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. You go in the middle.
So in the middle,
I'll call him.
I'm the cream filling. I don't know.
I'm going to leave that
It's
alone.
We're not going to touch
Carry over your story, please.
The Phantom of the Ohio Theater. In the heart of Columbus, Ohio, stands a regal structure that has stood as both a beacon of culture and a haunted reminder of tragedy.
I have been there, so.
The Ohio Theater. Known for its stunning architecture, ornate details, and rich history, the Ohio Theater has been a landmark for over 90 years. But it also harbors a dark secret, one that has remained entwined with its past. Many believe that the theater, with its plush velvet seats and towering balconies, is haunted by the restless spirit of a woman who met a tragic fate within its walls. Her presence still lingers there today, and the whispers of her sorrow are felt by anyone who steps foot inside. The Ohio Theater opened its doors in 1928, a time when the Roaring Twenties were in full swing and the world of cinema was beginning to bloom. Designed by the architectural firm Schmidt, Garden, and Martin, the theater was a grand, luxurious establishment, an opulent movie palace with seating capacity for over 2,700. Its interior was a masterpiece of craftsmanship with lavish decorations that included intricate murals, chandeliers, and a soaring ornate ceiling. For many years, it was the crown jewel of Columbus's cultural scene, drawing in audiences from all over Ohio for both screen, films, and live performances. But the theater's early years were not without tragedy. While the Ohio Theater saw much success in its early years, the Great Depression of the 1930s cast a long shadow over the country, and it was no exception. Business slowed, and in the years following the stock market crash, the theater's future became uncertain. However, despite the financial hardships, the Ohio Theater remained a focal point of cultural and social life in Columbus. By the 1940s, it had earned a reputation as a haven for film lovers and theatergoers alike. It was the early 1930s when a young woman by the name of Margaret Hamilton entered the theater's history in an unexpected and tragic way. Margaret was a rising star in the Columbus theater scene, a beautiful and talented actress who had recently joined the company at the Ohio Theater. She had made her debut in various stage productions and quickly became a favorite of both the public and her fellow actors. One fateful evening, in the midst of a busy production schedule, Margaret was rehearsing alone for an upcoming play. It was late, the theater was empty, and the last of the stagehands had already left for the night. Margaret was running through her lines in a vast, empty space, the sound of her voice echoing off the high ceilings, and a tragic twist of fate as she descended the grand staircase in the middle of the theater's lavish lobby. I can talk. Margaret stumbled, lost her balance, and fell. It was a fatal fall. She hit her head hard, and by the time help arrived, she was already gone. The circumstances surrounding her death were shrouded in mystery. Though some believed it was an unfortunate accident, others whispered that it was no accident at all. Some speculated that Margaret had been suffering from depression, perhaps driven by the pressure of her budding career, while others believed her death to be connected to a darker, more supernatural force. What was clear, however, was the tragedy it left behind. Margaret Hamilton was only in her early 20s, and her death was a devastating blow to both the theater company and the city of Columbus. But the most upsetting part of the story, the strange events that followed her untimely passing. It didn't take long for rumors to begin to swirl around the Ohio Theater. Just days after Margaret's death, the first whispers of a haunting began to spread. Staff members who had worked in the theater late at night started reporting strange occurrences, unexplained cold spots, faint whispers, echoing throughout the empty halls, and the unmistakable feeling of being watched. The most peculiar sighting, however, was reported on the grand staircase where Margaret had fallen. Workers would claim to see a shadowy figure lingering at the top, a silhouette of a woman dressed in a flowing gown. The woman looked just like Margaret, or at least they imagined she might appear. At first, these claims were dismissed as figments of overactive imaginations, but as time went on, the incidents became more frequent and more unsettling. One night, a janitor was cleaning the balcony area when he heard footsteps behind him. Turning around, he saw a woman in an old-fashioned dress, her face obscured by shadows. When he blinked, she was gone. At first, he thought he had simply imagined it, but the stories began to spread, and soon others started claiming similar experiences. Then, during a live performance in 1943, a particularly chilling incident occurred. The Ohio Theater was packed with an eager audience, watching a performance unfold on the stage. Suddenly, the lights began to flicker. At first, the audience thought that it was part of the special effects. But as the light dimmed and the chandelier above the stage began to sway ominously, the performers froze in place. One actor performing on the balcony above the stage looked down at the audience with wide, terrifying eyes. "She's there," he whispered, and before anyone could understand what he meant, the curtain came down abruptly, halting the show. The audience was confused, unsure whether it was a technical difficulty or something else entirely.
Part of the play, yeah.
Right. But the actors were not the only ones who sensed something strange that night. Many of the theatergoers later claimed to have seen a ghostly figure on the balcony during a performance, a woman in a flowing gown, sitting motionlessly, staring down at them. The figure vanished when the lights came back on, but the feeling of unease lingered in the air. As the years passed, the strange happenings at the Ohio Theater continued to escalate. Staff members began to report objects moved or disturbed, even when no one was around. Stage props would be found in odd places, as if someone had touched them, rearranged them, and then vanished. The sound of faint crying, footsteps, and the rustling of fabric could be heard echoing through the theater, especially after hours. A few brave souls attempted to confront the presence they believed haunted the building. A group of stagehands, after finishing a late rehearsal, decided to investigate the grand staircase where Margaret had died. As they stood there in the dim light, they swore they could hear footsteps descending the stairs behind them. When they turned around, no one was there. And then, one by one, they began to feel a cold chill in the air, as if a ghostly presence was surrounding them. But the most chilling encounters occurred in the early 1980s, when a local paranormal investigator named David Fisher visited the Ohio Theater to conduct an investigation. Armed with cameras, audio recorders, and thermal sensors, David and his team began their examination of the theater. As they stood in the lobby near the grand staircase, they began to hear the faintest sound of whispering, a voice they couldn't make out. Then, as the temperature dropped dramatically in the room, David caught something on his infrared camera. A figure, pale and glowing, standing in the doorway leading to the balcony. It was a woman in an old-fashioned gown, her face obscured by shadows. But when David blinked, the figure vanished, leaving behind an oppressive, bone-chilling cold that lingered in the air long after the team left. Later, when they reviewed the recordings, they discovered something truly chilling. One of the audio tapes, they could hear a faint whisper, clear as day. The voice was soft and sorrowful when played at a higher volume. The words, made out, were "I'm still here." Today, the Ohio Theater is a beloved cultural hub in Columbus, hosting Broadway productions, concerts, and community events. Despite the years that have passed since Margaret Hamilton's death, the hauntings have persisted. Staff and visitors alike continue to report strange encounters. Some say they feel her presence on the balcony, while others claim to have seen her ghostly figure seated amongst the audience, staring down at the stage. Over the years, the stories of Margaret Hamilton's ghost have become a part of the theater's folklore, and while many dismiss it as superstition, there are those who believe that the young actress who met such a tragic end never truly left. Instead, she is still drawn to the place where her life was cut short, a woman lost in time, forever wandering the grand halls of the Ohio Theater, waiting for her final curtain call.
Oh, it's so nice, but also creepy.
Very creepy. Very creepy. Yep. And 100% true story. Margaret Hamilton did in fact exist, did in fact pass in that way. And yeah, I don't think that they let investigators in anymore, though.
Why not?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I think it's insurance purposes. You know, it's a big place. It's an expensive place.
Dilapidated? Is it falling apart?
No, it's beautiful. It's still actually completely active. They have plays and music and all kinds of things that go on there. But
it's. I feel like with a lot of these places, it's more about the value of the stuff inside.
Yeah.
If you have been at this game for a while and you can do it, I would definitely say that having like an LLC only from the business aspect of having insurance to go along with it will get you into a lot more places than not.
Yeah. You know, you make waivers, if something gets injured or affected or broken, then, our insurance pays for it, blah, blah, blah. Make sure that the place is safe, make sure that you guys are safe, have that insurance on hand, have that waiver on hand, and that'll get you into a lot more doors.
And admittedly, like, as far as stuff like that goes, let us know if you want us to do a roundtable on shit like that. We can go pretty in depth on like what steps you should take to start getting into places. Like, I know we've touched on it before, but we can literally kind of take you from A to B to C, like, as opposed to just kind of like briefly skimming over it. If you guys kind of want an in-depth analysis on how to do it and how to do it correctly and how to get places to start allowing you to come that otherwise would not.
Well, even there,
because that can be a complicated situation to navigate, especially for somebody that's just getting into it.
Even having all of those things in place,
it's not a guarantee.
A lot of these places, like the Ohio Theater, you just have to get real lucky, talk to the right person at the right time.
Yeah, meet the right person, make friends with the right people.
Yeah, because these places, obviously, even especially a place like the Ohio Theater, it's still very, very active. There's shows that go on every single week, multiple nights a week. Yeah, they're busy. They're busy.
Right.
So it's difficult to find time to get somebody in there, especially overnight when they're setting up like stage decorations and props and things like that.
And honest to God, and this is like when I say it, a lot of you are going to be like, well, duh. But like, step number one, like, don't bring this shit up around Halloween time. Like, if you're going to talk to places, like,
because they instantly know what you're trying to do.
They think you're chasing,
They don't take you seriously at all. It's all about
they think
Halloween.
you're just chasing thrills at that point. So, like, if you are going to, start meeting the right people and rubbing elbows with a theater that you go to quite a bit, like, I'll give you an instance, like, for us, a place we kind of plan on getting into is, like, the Agora Theater in Cleveland.
Mm.
I've gone to a lot of concerts there. I go to that place a lot. It's not like one of those places where, you stop in one time and try to rub elbows with the right, like, no, like, I'm pretty much friends with the guy that runs it.
Yeah.
And that is a relationship that is developed over the course of a very long period of time, not just,
well,
I was there once or twice and I just met the right person.
To be fair, I never considered investigating the Agora until relatively recently.
Yeah, until we went to the show and saw that thing.
Right, and then I was like, holy shit, I need to come here.
So, Chris, I'll get in contact with you. I'll be talking to you soon.
We would actually, obviously, the Agora has an amazing presence as far as, concerts and theaters in general have. So if this would be something, maybe we could go even bigger. It is in the heart of Cleveland, where we're going to have plenty of good internet connection. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you mean like a
stream, like a YouTube thing?
Yes. So make a whole production out of it.
Yeah.
Well,
that'd be cool.
I'll have to talk with my buddy and see what I can do about getting us in and being able to do something like that. Like, another thing is, like, don't push your bounds. Step one is just getting into the place. And I say that in the nicest way because a lot of places, like, won't mind you getting into a place, but also one big thing that we as a group have been about is, like, the places that want to stay private, it's okay to let them stay private.
Oh, we do a lot of that, actually, yeah. So, I mean, there's honest to goodness, 90% of the places that we have been over the years, I just simply can't tell you about.
Right. Well, I'll use...
Well, sort of the cloak of anonymity.
Mm-hmm.
I will use a place that we were trying to get into at one point where we lived relatively close, and their reservations, just as an example, we never actually got into the place.
Unfortunate.
But I will so, like, there was a small theater in Tennessee where we lived that was right up the road, and they actually had stories internally about hauntings, and we actually got to the point where we, like, kind of talked to the people that ran it, and they were kind of interested. Their biggest concern is we were literally in the Bible Belt of Tennessee. Yeah. They didn't want that. They didn't want that shit getting out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that could have potentially put a pretty big stigma on their backs,
right?
With the religious community.
That's so odd to me because that could have actually spurred it more.
Right.
It's true, but also at the time, no, again, it also depends on the time. So, like, at the time, that was before the TV shows got really big and started really taking off.
It was before Grant and Jason.
It was like playing D&D in the 1980s.
Made what we do sort of mainstream and popular.
So, I guess if I have any word of advice, it would be, like, if you're going to places like this and you're starting out fresh, initially come at it at the aspect of, hey, if you don't want us to talk about this, we won't.
Yeah.
Like, it's just one of those things we want to check out. We'll just list it as a private investigation. We won't put up any pictures or videos that
will identify
identifying
your person or your business.
So realize that if you want to get into some cool places, like, sometimes that's just the thing you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, it's not about the publicity. It's not about the guess where we've been. That's not what it's about. It's for the passion of understanding and learning about the paranormal.
And by product, you understand a little bit better too. So,
exactly.
Because you may not know what you're dealing with.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sometimes it's okay to be a little bit selfish about this and be like, I want to go investigate this place, not to, like, share it with the world, but just because I want to fucking investigate this place.
This is for me. This is what I want to do.
One big place that I would fucking love to go, and I literally would hold their reservations wholeheartedly, like Gray's Armory in Cleveland.
Oh, that'd be freaking amazing.
Like, I would not tell a goddamn soul if I went there. Like,
Unfortunately, it's 100% off limits.
right. And to be fair, like, again, that's one of those things where we know the right people to be able to talk to the right people to even be able to think about getting in there. But we also know the right people to know that it is literally off limits.
Yeah,
Like, it's not going to happen.
Unfortunately, the right people have told us, yeah, that's not going to happen. Good try, but no.
That said, keep your eye out, because a lot of these places, Gray's Armory included, they'll do their own little personal like tours
around the
spooky season. But like, as far as getting a private overnight investigation, you're not doing it. Like, it's not happening.
Yeah, it's not happening. But I really want to hear Joe's story.
All right. Well, I also did a forest, but not so much of the forest itself, what is in the forest. I'm going to be talking about the Congo here, and I actually have two stories with it.
Ooh, I like the Congo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is, and actually what I found out upon reading it here a little bit, this is actually the basis for the movie Congo.
Interesting.
It wasn't actually about the monkeys. It was about, or the gorillas, I should say. It was actually about a species called Baloka.
Interesting.
I believe I said that correctly, because pronunciation, not my game.
Also African. So.
Yeah. So it's specifically talking about a part of the region in the Congo. And of course, it doesn't have it here as upon I was looking at it. It actually, okay, here it is. It's in the center of the continent, formerly known as Zaire, lies the Dominican Republic of the Congo. This is where, according to legend, you will find the Baloka. They prowl only in the darkest parts of the rainforest, where the little sunlight reaches the ground, even in the middle of the day, where the sun is blocked by layer upon layer of leaves, branches, and tangled vines. So, the Baloka is believed by some to be spirits of the dead ancestors who still hold a grudge on the living. Other people believe that the Baloka are an ancient evil released on the world when it was first formed. And still others think that the Baloka are a natural part of the forest, no different than mushrooms on the forest floor, a bird in the forest canopy, or a leopard that also hunts in the shadows. They eat only human flesh. They are small in stature, but have the ability to unhinge their jaw so wide that if they wanted to, they could swallow a human whole. This is something me and Teresa talked about, they have no hair on their bodies whatsoever.
Which is crazy.
But they have grass that is growing on their bodies to easily blend in with the forest. And their eyes shine a bright, bright red. So, if you ever see a pair of red eyes in the Congo...
Well, I mean, if you're ever in the Congo, you're braver than I am to begin with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you ever see a pair of red eyes in the Congo, you're fucked immediately, because as this article says right here, there is no human defense against them.
Interesting.
So, you're kind of screwed. However, there are ways, once you're in their thrall, you're in it. There's no way to get out of it. But, however, there are ways to keep from being in their thrall. So, two ways here. A hunter who ventures into the jungle should bring either an amulet made from a lion's tooth or a fetish created from river reeds. I don't know why they choose the word fetish. Maybe it means something different in Africa.
Something like that.
Yeah, tied into exactly 11 knots. The amulet will help conceal you. Will help conceal you from the Baloka. The longer the tooth, the more powerful the magic. The reed repels the Baloka, but none of my storytellers could explain why or the significance of the number 11. So, something to look up for you guys there.
For reference on that, fetish is any sort of an inanimate object that can be inhabited by almost like a spirit guardian that can act as protection for you.
Fetish, foci, there's a lot of names for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've never heard it called a fetish before. But anyways, I was wondering where that article went when I read that. Anyways, the first story is of the Baloka and the hunter's wife.
Oh.
And I did have to laugh a little bit when I first started reading this, because there was a hunter in the village, and his name was Mamadou. He was the oldest and wisest of hunters, and he was still very strong, even though he was incredibly old. His wife, Victoria,
Interesting.
kept asking him to stay home and not to hunt. She was scared that if he ever entered the dark forest, that he might eventually not come back. So she always half asked him to stay, even though he returned every time. However, Mamadou always said that the younger men in the village still had a lot to learn from him, and that he needed to teach them before he quit venturing into the forest to hunt.
I feel that.
So She pleaded with him every day, every hour, every time he decided to go in there. And finally, her last Hail Mary says, please don't go anymore. You are old and I don't want to be alone. Stay with me.
Aw.
But of course he refused because he had to do it. He had to teach the younger generation on how to hunt, how to provide for the tribe. He said he knew the best spots in the jungle to find meat, and the younger men still had a lot to learn from him. But his wife kept pleading. So he finally compromised and said, if you won't stay, will you go with me? And she said, sure. However, he said, if you must come, you will need to stay in the hut that we build while we hunt, for fear that the Baloka will come take you or eat you. So the next day, Momodu and the 3 young men and Victoria left the safety of their village and entered into the jungle. When they reached the edge of the hunting grounds, they had built a small hut and made fires for the night because it was getting dark. As they ate and went to bed, Momodu said to his wife, we will be gone in the morning before you wake up. However, do not open the door if you hear a bell. Hold on, if you hear bells, stay in the shelter. Don't pull back the door. Don't look out. And above all, don't let anything in. Then he went to sleep.
Famous last words.
Yep.
Right. So the next day she woke up. Men were gone. Everything was cool. She decided to stay in the hut, was doing some stuff in there, and said before long she heard a bell.
Typical woman.
Clearly heard a bell.
Mm-hmm.
And at first she thought it was her husband messing with her. So she ignored it. Like, screw it. Nah, I'm not going to worry about it. And it said around noon, she heard the bell again and wondered what he was doing back so soon. So she pulled aside the door flap and at first saw only the jungle, but the bell became much louder and made her happy and sleepy. What she thought was a bush started moving toward her, and the bell chimed louder. Now, mind you, this is a story told from the husband's point of view, and you'll understand why.
Because
She
she did.
still only saw the grass leaves blowing and some bright red berries. Keep in mind, their eyes are bright red. But the bell continued to get louder, and she was just getting ready to call out to her husband, and then she saw the Baloka and could not understand how he got to the door, but there he stood. Story goes, he came in, she tried offering him tea, but he said, I can't eat that, I can only eat flesh of your kind, and then proceeded to eat her. So much so that when the husband returned from hunting, he was excited to show her how good of a hunter he was, and found only bones and a blood-soaked floor. But
That's
not his
awesome.
wife.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Don't open the damn door, folks.
Right. So the next story is the Baloka and the fisherman.
Oh, my.
And it said in the article that the story was told to him by a good friend, Jan Banza, who was originally from Kindu in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, but he now lives in Boston. This
Probably a good move.
Right. So this area of the Congo has many myths and legends about the Congo River, including this one about a fisherman who encounters the Baloka. There was once a fisherman who fed his family by catching fish, but he wanted to be the best fisherman that ever lived, so he sought to catch most and especially the biggest fish. So he decided to follow the river deep into the jungle. He would go farther than anyone had ever gone and would catch the biggest fish the villagers had ever seen. Always the first big mistake. One morning, he took his canoe and started downstream. He paddled all day, slept in his canoe that night, and paddled the next day. Ate some fruit, slept in the canoe again. He did this over and over for the next 18 days. He had never come this far, nor had anyone from the village ever come this far. He only stopped paddling to eat and sleep. Finally, he found what he was looking for, a wide spot in the Congo where 7 large creeks flowing out of the jungle and into the river. He arrived just as the sun was setting, so he pulled his canoe onto a small sandbar and slept restlessly. The fisherman awoke early and set his line using a large net. He spread the net across the deepest waters and waited. He waited, and he made camp on the side of the river near some of the dense undergrowth with the red berries growing on them. Red berries, that appears to be what you see. He dozed a little when the sun was hot and woke to the sound of bells, but he didn't think of the bells. He wanted to check his nets, so he got to his canoe, checked his nets, and he noticed the bell stopped when he pulled away from the shore. In the nets was the biggest fish he had ever seen. Different types, too. He wanted to start paddling back to the village with his catch right away, but the night was coming, so he went back to the shore. As soon as he set foot on the land, he heard the bells again, and he peered into the dark jungle and called out, but there was no answer. He parted some branches and stepped through, like seeing through a door, the branches swung closed behind him, just like a door slamming shut, and the fisherman was never seen again. The people in his village would never know how good of a fisherman he was. The Baloka made sure of that. So, yeah, but okay. So, apparently, these are prevalent in the Congo. And like I said, I think we've done a story on them before.
Huh?
Where
No, I
I
don't.
remember hearing something of this nature before. I could be wrong.
It wasn't those ones, though.
We've been doing it for a year and a half, so I could be wrong.
Must have been something different.
It was probably something similar, but I don't think it was that one.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, upon doing the research in the Congo, because this is what I kind of wanted to do, there's a lot of shit in the Congo
Dude,
that makes
right.
me not want to ever go to that forest.
Well, I mean,
Somewhat.
leopards, for example.
Well, yes, the natural
Fair.
animals, yes. The natural animals definitely make me not want to go in that forest whatsoever, but
However,
Again-
baby leopards have really pretty blue eyes.
they're classified as lore, but the locals don't believe in them as lore. A lot of them
No.
believe them as the boogeyman,
Oh, yeah, and shit's totally real.
and is meant to keep villagers from, some of them actually look at it as tribes members that don't want them in their area. So, yeah, there's a lot of stories about these things, but I just thought it was a cool and interesting little thing.
That's true.
Spooky and irritating. Not irritating, but spooky and freakish.
Freakish.
So,
Yeah,
And that's the thing, right? Is that, like, what's fun is every region has stories like this. The cool part about Africa is
it's a lot and it's mixed.
it is a lot. Like, it doesn't matter what country in the Congo that you go to. I'm referring to the region, the Congo, more so than like the state / little country
Yeah.
within Africa itself.
Yeah.
But in like every province of Africa, there's like multiple tribes, and much like Native Americans, like they all have their own belief system. They all
Yeah.
have their own
Yep.
lore and legends and this and that. So like, but here's
so
the
what would
thing.
the proper term be then? Okay, so
For
what we would call the Indians, the Native Americans, would they be the Native Africans?
or just Africans.
Yeah, but
Um,
there's other people in Africa who aren't
To be fair,
from
I would
the
literally
original
just
Native tribe.
treat it like the natives here, and like if you weren't from here, I would just call it tribes. Like they're just
I think that's what
different
they just
tribes
call
of
them.
people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or they just have different names for the tribes.
Valid.
But you know,
Congonian or
right. But much like, you know, the Sioux versus the Cherokee versus the Navajo, like they all have their own sets of legends and stories.
That's true.
And like,
there's a
word to the
difference.
wise, when you're on their lands, listen to their shit.
Right.
Yeah, because, they know some shit. Mm-hmm.
Well, it goes back to the old Appalachian thing. If you go into those woods and you don't listen to the stories behind them, that's on you.
Yeah. It's so
Right.
true.
And here's the thing, whether it's an exaggerated version and, you know,
Every myth has a basis of truth.
and this creature is nothing more than a lion at night, it's still going to fucking eat your ass. All right. So
I mean,
probably
that's-
listen to what they say.
That's those people have been there for generations and generations and generations.
They know how to live.
I'm fairly positive that they're going to know a leopard from not a leopard.
Well, yeah. I mean, but even still, I shine.
Well,
so-
there again, leopard's eyes don't shine red, so they can't be mistaking that with a leopard.
The point is the difference between, to me, the difference between like tribes that you would find in Africa and like the old like Navajo and Native American tribes and stuff like that is whether it's a story or this and that, those people, it's not so much they know how to live, they know how to survive where they
Facts.
are.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, that's a big thing about it, too. They're surviving.
Their stories are to keep their family and their friends safe,
A lot.
period.
Yeah.
And alive.
Alive being the key part.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with what they say, really. If they tell me not to go in a particular patch of forest, I ain't going over there.
Well, that's where ambition can be a bitch. Because, like the fisherman said, I want to catch the biggest and best fish out there. Well, sometimes in order to do that, you got to go in remote locations.
And ambition will get your ass killed, too.
Yeah.
So,
and that
good
kind
luck.
of thing, yeah.
We all saw The Ghost in the Darkness, folks.
Oh, that's such a good movie.
That was a good movie.
it
But,
was.
yeah, no. Moral of the story, stay safe and stay smart when you're in the woods.
Indeed. Indeed. Any woods, not just the Congo.
So that was
The
my story.
woods, the woods are the best place, but they're also realistically the most dangerous place.
Yeah.
So when we say safe, we're not kidding. Like that's
The freaks come out at night.
that's a literally listen. Oh, I mean, we hear about it over here in the U.S. all the time. A big portion of it is referred to as like the missing 411, right?
Oh, yeah.
We hear about very experienced people that literally do hikes by themselves all the goddamn time. If there's anybody that could stay alive in the woods, it's these people. And they
Mhm.
come up missing all the time here.
Yeah, just drop right off the face of the earth, poof, vanished, gone.
So it's like,
Sometimes we find camcorders left behind, but
Mm-hmm.
very few and far between. I think Bigfoot learned how to work a camcorder.
right.
He must have.
But,
Seriously.
I mean, for us, it's literally just one of those things where, like, stay safe. The buddy system is a thing for a reason, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is true. And then we split the party.
Exactly. That's
Don't
what you
split
do.
the party.
It's just what you're doing.
D&D terms, don't split the party, all right? Just don't. Don't do it, especially not in the Congo. Are you fucking crazy?
Yes.
Clearly.
They
Don't do it in
all
the
time.
Congo. Don't do it in Appalachia, all right? Don't split the party, all right?
Yeah.
You're going to die.
So this episode's probably pretty thick. I think it's probably time for socials.
We're coming right up on the line. So, yeah, you can do socials. It's fine.
Love it. Love it. Did we have, by chance, while I'm doing socials, I want to know if we got any new listeners.
I will pull that up for you. You do some socials, and
Yeah.
I'll do that.
So every single thing that I mentioned, obviously, we would love to hear your take on the story, your opinions, your suggestions for stories of future dates, things that go on in your neck of the woods, questions you may have. I want to see your evidence. I want to see your videos. I want to hear your EVPs. And of course, I want you to go to YouTube at No Lights Paranormal and check out all of ours and let us know your opinions on those. You can drop us a line either there on YouTube, or you can go ahead and hook us up at X at No Lights Para, P-A-R-A, No Lights Paranormal at gmail.com, or No Lights Paranormal on Facebook. And you can send us a message anytime you like. Post something right on our wall for everybody to see. And if you have a paranormal group, hit us up. We want to be friends. Let's do this. Love you all so much.
So that said, just to give an update, like I'm not going to give an update on followers or anything like that, but I'm not really seeing any like new people, so to speak, but I am seeing like some repeats from some recents. So
Nice.
Thanks for coming back.
Yeah,
as
we
of
appreciate
this
you.
week, this month, we've still got some listeners that repeated at the end of the last month. So we've got some Canada, UK, Norway, Ukraine, Switzerland, Germany, Finland, Japan. Like, they're back. So they listen more than once.
Welcome.
Appreciate you so much.
Yeah.
Really do. So with all that said, we're going to hop off here. We're going to let you get back to your daily lives. We're going to figure out what the hell we're going to tell you guys about next week.
You get an hour
and-
back of your life.
Right. And in the meantime, don't fuck with Baba Yaga.
Yeah, I still got nothing.
We love you.